In the heart of America, in the early years of the last century, there stood a cabin so small and so forgotten that even travelers who passed near it seldom gave it a glance. The wood was darkened with time, the roof bent under the weight of years, and the silence around it was heavier than the forest that surrounded its lonely clearing. Inside lived a family whose name was rarely spoken, for those who had heard of them wished only to forget. They were born in that silence, raised in it and shaped by it, until the cabin itself seemed to breathe with the strangeness of their existence. The father was a man whose shadow filled every corner of the one-room dwelling. His voice was rarely heard, but his presence was law, and his children never learned to ask why. The mother moved like a ghost, her face pale, her words even paler, never stepping beyond the door unless she was called. Their children, thin and strange, grew wild without schooling, never knowing laughter, never playing like others of their age. They spoke in whispers, their eyes darting nervously whenever footsteps sounded too near the cabin. The family rarely went into town, and when they did, they caused uneasy stares. Their clothes smelled of damp wood, their hair unkempt, their eyes hollow, like they had lived without sun for years. No one dared question too much, but rumors spread quickly. People spoke of screams carried on the wind at night, of shapes moving through the woods when the moon was high, of the cabin swallowing all who drew too close. For years, curiosity battled with fear, but fear always won, and the cabin stood untouched, its secret life hidden within. It was in the summer of 1919 that the silence broke. A young boy from a nearby farm went missing, last seen wandering into the woods. Search parties were sent, the whole town drawn into the hunt, but the trail led nowhere until dogs were brought to sniff the air. They led their handlers to the clearing, their cries rising as they reached the darkened cabin. The family stood at the doorway, stiff and watchful, saying nothing as the men demanded answers. The father's eyes gave nothing away. The mother's hands twisted in her apron, and the children huddled like cornered birds. The men forced their way inside, and what they found made the silence of the cabin roar louder than any voice could. Beneath the floorboards, hidden by loose planks, were the remains of more than one lost soul. Bones stacked, scraps of cloth, a shoe too small for any grown man, a child's ribbon stained and frayed. The air was thick with the stench of death, and the truth became clear without a word spoken. This was not the first disappearance, and the boy would not be the last had the secret stayed buried. The family did not fight when they were taken. The father walked in silence, his eyes fixed forward. The mother followed as if she had been waiting for the day. The children clung to each other, whispering sounds no one understood. In town, horror spread faster than fire. People whispered of cannibal rites, of madness born from generations trapped within those four walls, of a family so bound to their cabin they had turned into something less than human. No trial could wash away the stain of what was found. No sentence could give back the lives taken. The cabin was left behind, its door swinging in the wind, its windows like black eyes, staring out at anyone brave enough to pass. In the years that followed, the cabin rotted into the ground, but its story lingered. Travelers avoided the road, children dared each other to creep close and run before nightfall, and old men warned that the earth itself had swallowed the cries of the victims. Even now, when the wind cuts low across the trees, some say you can hear the faintest whispers rising from where the cabin once stood, as though the silence it carried refused to ever die. And so the tale of that family remains, carried from mouth to mouth, heavier than the wood that built their home, darker than the night that hid their crimes. It is remembered not for the names of those who lived inside, but for the silence that followed them, the silence that even death could not bury. The silence that gave the cabin its cursed name, the cabin of silence.